Good Saturday evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our video for today, Saturday, February 17th, 2024. Already halfway through February, and the 100-day mark till the hurricane season is coming up very, very soon, and that's for sure. So time is definitely flying by. We got a lot of stuff to go over this week, so let's get right to it. A lot to go over in the world of current tropics right now. We're going to talk about what's going on because there's stuff in the southern hemisphere and there's also something in the southern Atlantic too, which we'll touch upon very briefly. But first, just want to, of course, give our friends in the Southern Hemisphere a little bit of love because it is tropical cyclone season there. It's their summer right now while it's our winter. Obviously, there's tropical cyclone activity everywhere in the world at all times of the year. And this time right now is the Southern Hemisphere's part. And they have a cyclone, Donjungo, um, Doonjun. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but it is a cyclone in the southwestern Indian Ocean, and it is actually quite a significant storm. I'll show you on the satellite right now. This is it. Look at these cold cloud tops, and you can see that trying to wrap around the eye. This is actually supposed to become a pretty significant storm as it heads down to the southwest. Luckily, it's supposed to stay out to sea. I did check the Joint Typhoon Warning Center map, and they do have this peaking at 120 knots out to sea. It does seem like it is struggling a little bit, though, right now to fully wrap around and develop a central solid CDO or central dense overcast. And of course, it is kind of struggling out to clear its eye right now. So maybe a little bit of shear or dry air of some sort of impacting the system short term, but it is expected to strengthen, and this will, luckily, as of right now, move out to sea. So that's that. And then we also have this feature here, product of cyclonic weather, and this is not being officially tracked right now by any major tropical cyclone tracking industries across the globe, except the Brazilian Meteorology Service. They're tracking this. This is a South Atlantic storm. Yes, the storms do occur in the South Atlantic. Not very well organized though right now. A lots of dry air entrained to the system, and there's also some shear too, kind of as well, keeping this from developing into a very organized system. That tends to be the case most of the time in the Southern Atlantic, which is why we really don't get anything that is truly that defined. But interesting nonetheless, when we do get development that tries to occur, this is definitely one of those instances. And this too, I forgot what name this storm has, but the Brazilian Meteorology Service did give this a name, or I'm not sure if it gave it a name yet, but I think they're going to. But this will again also move southwest, south towards the southwest. I think I said southwest earlier. Maybe I meant southeast. But for this, it's going to move towards the southwest, and I don't think there will be any impacts to land with this too as well. So I guess we could just kind of cancel that out. And it's a South Atlantic system, anyways. Probably won't get too strong, and probably won't get too concerning in terms of what it does. Will probably remain weak and disorganized most of the time, but of course, it is in the South Atlantic, so it is interesting to track for sure. Moving on to what we typically talk about, sea surface temperature anomalies. This is as of yesterday by the NOAA Coral Reef Watch, updated a day late as always. But as you can see, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but generally summarizing what is going on in the Atlantic as a whole, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies, averaging at least 1-2 degrees Celsius above the MDR. Very warm on top of this very cold subtropical look that is a very favorable look for what you would look for in an active hurricane season, and that's just a fact. It's only mid-February, but at the same time, it is also mid-February, and we are 3.5 months, even less than that at this point, away from the hurricane season. So it is definitely interesting that this sort of signature has persisted in the Atlantic. And meanwhile, in the Eastern Pacific, the cracks in the El Nino continue to appear. I mean, just look at it. We have a bunch of these cooler patches beginning to show up along the equatorial Pacific and even closer towards the date line we've kind of seen the erase almost. Look at that towards the date line. And if I were to get a graphic of the Western Pacific, it'll probably show you a lot better. But towards the date line and in the Central Pacific, this El Nino is kind of completely erased itself. It's still pretty solid in the Eastern Pacific, but you can kind of see in the Southern Hemisphere we're beginning to cool down a little bit too. Another sign, even off right near the coast of South America through here, you could tell that this El Nino is definitely beginning to crack, and it'll not be long till we head towards La Nina. That is for damn sure. And then even here in the Eastern Pacific, we're seeing some of these cooler anomalies, probably response from the Northern Pacific to the La Nina. Maybe going to get that more negative PDO signature in the Pacific this year. Once again, that'll also be something very interesting to watch as we head closer towards the season. But the Nino 3.4 index, again, the Nino is cracking. Now just reaching that 1.5 Celsius line, so we're barely kind of on the mark between moderate and strong El Nino, at least as of the latest real-time values by Cyclonic Weather by Alex Borham. Really great guy, really great site. And same with the MDR too. MDR continues to warm, though we might have a little bit of a break, and I'll mention in just a minute why, but Atlantic is very warm. 1.3 degrees Celsius is the current value. And let me just tell you, in a normal year, we wouldn't get 1.3 degrees Celsius in the MDR, especially that we've been averaging out in those kind of anomalies basically since the start of the year. And even we could go back to last year, and we've not gotten below 0.8 degrees Celsius. And even that 0.8 degrees Celsius above normal, that is still on the upper end of the scale in terms of average anomalies we have in the MDR. That is still very much up there, and it's still very much a concern for the season because that means there's a lot of energy in the ocean. And I said before, but oceans are huge, or probably one of the biggest energy stores in the entire world. And that's how hurricanes are born: energy from the ocean needing to be exhausted, and that's how we get hurricanes. It's just a way of Mother Nature balancing itself, and we have a whole lot of energy, especially in the Atlantic this year. And in a year like this, where we're transitioning to La Nina, definitely not a good picture at all. But I did mention we are maybe going to see this kind of level off, this kind of warming a little bit. In fact, if you look here, we're kind of starting to see the warming, the anomalies kind of level off, at least over the last few days. And this is why, because I talked about this before, the NAO, in a positive state, we kind of have a higher pressure that's stronger over the subtropical Atlantic, so we have stronger trades in the deep tropics and kind of help mix and cool the waters. You kind of get the picture, and we're in a strong positive NAO right now. In fact, we're heading towards a stronger one, as much as 1.5 deviations above normal for the NAO. So that is definitely a decent NAO. Kind of does go back down and kind of level off, and then slowly makes its way maybe towards neutral after that. But bottom line, the NAO is probably going to stay positive for a little bit. Will probably help it kind of level off all the westerly winds we're seeing in the MDR right now. And in turn, we'll probably see trades increase, and hopefully maybe a little bit of this will go down. But I'm pretty sure not by any significant degree at all. Especially when you have this. This is by Brian McNulty, another very nice guy that I like to follow on Twitter. He has some very good work that I love to pay attention to sometimes, and he mentions the average sea surface temperature in the North Atlantic hit a notable mark on Thursday. This was posted as of yesterday, 4.14 standard deviations above the recent 1991 to 2020 baseline, higher than any time during 2023. And this is the map that he's showing. And look at this. This is what he's showing. Higher than any time during 2023. And he mentions it's a 1 in 59,000 year anomaly. So basically, to put into perspective with what he's saying, the Atlantic is right now at an all-time record high in terms of sea surface temperatures. You can take a look at the graph here And I'll even go down to show you. He mentions with his graph, because he also has his own sea surface temperature anomaly plots, he even mentions himself, he thinks he needs to expand the sea surface temperature anomaly scale past 4 degrees Celsius on the map, because he mentions what's going on by West Africa. And I would agree, honestly. Maybe we could see this extended past 4 degrees Celsius. But I mean, it just goes to show how warm the Atlantic is and just how much energy there is in the ocean right now. And that's going to make for a very interesting picture come hurricane season, that is for sure. The SOI, another factor we look at, more oriented towards El Nino and La Nina. SOI is right now, currently today, at a very low, a very negative value. The 30-day average is at negative 17. And as we know, that is probably in response to the westerly winds we've been seeing across the Nino 3.4. But I'm going to show you why this doesn't really matter anymore, especially now that we are not really in, we're not going towards El Nino anymore. We're really going towards La Nina, because we have an SOI value of negative 17 and the 90-day average is still at negative 5. But look at what's happening in the equatorial Pacific below the surface. We're losing a lot of that heat energy that we see in El Nino along the equator. Look at that. This is from December. With this, we'll reload. I'm going to reload this. Going back all the way from December, this is a graphic, and you see from time to time that I show this, but it kind of shows all the warm anomalies below the surface along the equator in the Pacific. Great way to visualize how El Nino and La Nina events get started, but notice all of these warm anomalies closer towards the surface. Look at how they just disappear, and then look at how all these anomalies below the surface kind of make their way closer towards the surface. And this is all associated with the La Nina. And as this continues to erode, it's basically completely much eroded now. And pretty soon we're going to start to see these cooler anomalies surface along the equatorial Pacific. And then we'll probably begin to see our transition towards La Nina. And it's really reflective on the upper ocean heat content. Just look at this, all the way from March of last year when we saw the upper ocean heat content drastically increase. We've really begun to lose that upper ocean heat in the Pacific. We're really losing that energy along the equatorial Pacific, and go towards February now. This is a map by NOAA, by the way. Go towards February now, we're starting to see below normal values of the upper ocean heat content in the Pacific. So that is probably the most biggest indicative sign you could look at in seeing that this El Nino is definitely on numbered days, that's for sure. We're losing all that heat energy, that colder water below the surface is beginning to come up, and eventually we'll probably see it reflected on this map. This is the sea surface temperature anomalies on the surface. Pretty sure very soon we'll start to see a bunch of these blue anomalies make their way to the surface. And of course, with that, the complete death of the El Nino. And you can even see that with the zonal wind anomalies too. First off, looking at the part of this graph before this black line, so basically everything that's on top over here, this is what's happened so far. So basically from mid-February down from mid-January, and you could take a look at all these oranges and reds. These are westerly winds that we've seen along the equatorial Pacific, and you could see why the SOI has been off the wall negative recently, especially with a 30-day average all the way at negative 17. Very strong westerly winds occurring, but we're not seeing this El Nino strengthening. You would think that we would get westerly winds to help strengthen the El Nino, but that's not happening. And you could go back, and Eric Webb mentioned this before, and we talked about this before, but he mentioned before how once we get towards the end of an El Nino event, sometimes these westerly wind bursts kind of help to act to terminate the El Nino and kind of exhaust all the remaining upper ocean heat along the equator and kind of help get rid of this El Nino. Basically, the westerly wind bursts would then help get rid of any heat that's remaining and eventually help begin our process towards La Nina, and that's basically what has happened, given that we're not really seeing any further strengthening of this El Nino. And then look at how that looks beyond into the future. Now we're starting to see a bunch of these blues and these greens pop up, which is the flip side, and that is more stronger trades along the equatorial Pacific. So that definitely means a return to more neutral conditions probably will begin in the next several weeks, and definitely a sign that the atmosphere is beginning to change over. Again, mentioning all the facts, all the models, all the climate models we've been reviewing over the last 2 weeks, they're all showing this transition from this El Nino to La Nina. And you can see here from mid-February onward, this extends out into mid-March, and you don't see any more sizable westerly wind bursts along the equatorial Pacific. So I could definitely bet you for sure that's probably a sign this El Nino is done for, not only oceanically like we're seeing now, slowly, but it is happening, but also atmospherically too. We'll probably see it all go away in just a matter of weeks. It's only a matter of time now before this El Nino is gone and over with, and we'll be on to La Nina, just like all the climate models have been predicting. See, climate models are not all that bad. They do help predict things months in advance, and they're all agreeing on some sort of La Nina coming on. You could definitely see the process happening right now as it's happening. But moving away from all of that, I do want to talk about a little bit of United States weather, kind of a view over the United States right now. First off, I want to talk about this feature because this did bring quite a bit of snow actually for the Northeast. This is the second system for New York City this week to bring some measurable accumulative snow. This system brought 2 inches for New York City, and we had a system on Monday which brought about 3 inches. That's as of Central Park, although snow totals did vary throughout the city. Some areas seeing as much as 10 inches of snow in both systems, I think. Not quite sure about that, but New York City got some pretty varying snow totals, as well as portions of central Jersey got, with this system particularly, also up to 9, 10, 11 inches in some areas. So a lot of snow fell, and that's now moving out, and luckily gonna kind of dry out. Temperatures did warm up today, so maybe some of that snow did melt, but it was a very fluffy snow, something that we don't really see often as much anymore. But anyways, moving away from that, I'm actually going to show you the snow totals in a little bit. But we have Gulf moisture over the Gulf right now. Not anything in terms of severe weather, although just cloudy weather and some rain over the Gulf Coast. This is going to move into Florida. We'll bring some rain to them, I believe, this weekend into early next week, maybe. Then that'll probably move out. And then I do not see, at least over the next coming week, maybe anything in terms of severe weather, though I could be wrong. Probably some weather system over California too. Maybe they're gonna get some more rain, some more snow in the snowpack. That'll probably also occur as well. But do want to show you some of the snow totals we got, because not gonna lie to you, they were pretty impressive. So I'm gonna go to this. Here, let's zoom in. Kind of wait, 'cause sometimes it does take a little bit of time, but here we go. Gonna zoom in on the Northeast, and here's New York. And you could see definitely this is one of those systems where some sort of band set up, because look at New Jersey. We had right along the New Jersey coast 5 inches in Long Branch. We also had in Belmar 1.6 inches only, but just go a little bit north of that, and places like Edison, Highland Park. Where was Highland Park? We just passed it. Hope Lawn, though, an example, you can see 8, 9, even 10, 11-inch totals, and that even extends up into Coney Island and portions of southern Brooklyn and Queens, as much as 6, 7, even 8 inches of snow. So there was definitely some sort of band that's set up of high snowfall rates that probably stalled out for several hours, and as it then moved on, and it just gave a beating. It gave a real big thump to places that were in this band. As you go further east into Pennsylvania, some areas seeing over a foot of snow. And I could show you that here. This is by NPC Joey. He kind of, or whoever this guy is, showed the radar, and then he mentions it's obvious central New Jersey got absolutely walloped with 3 to 4 inches per hour rates, and he shows this on the radar. Look at that band that sets up right through central Jersey and even through portions of southern Queens. That really gave a lot of snow. No wonder why we see snow totals in some areas averaging over 9, 10 inches, and even into Coney Island and places like that. And then you just go a little bit further north, only 3, 4, 5 inches. Very impressive and really a very interesting sight. But at least for snow lovers, they're getting their snow. Am I right? Especially because we haven't been getting a lot of snow recently. We're finally starting to see a little bit more in terms of snow. But probably this will be gone in just a matter of a few days. Temperatures will warm up and eventually that snow will melt. But at least we had it while it lasted. And just noticed that there was a typo, forgot to add an N to season. But oh well, it's a mistake. People make mistake all the time. It doesn't really matter. You guys can get what I mean in the title, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, that's gonna wrap it up though for this week. It's gonna be very interesting to see what happens for the season. That is for sure. I am planning on doing a special video as we get towards the hurricane season for the 100-day countdown that is coming up this week. I think on Thursday, so I might post a video for that. Just like we do with our forecast videos, just kind of going over the factors that we look at for the hurricane season and what to look out for. Nothing too crazy, but kind of just to get everybody in the mood for the season just a little bit more, even though it's only February. But the countdown is on. We're getting close to 100 days till the season, and trust me, once those 100 days pass, once that 100-day mark passes, things begin to speed up, and as we head into next month, we get past the spring predictability barrier, and we're now able to start making a lot more confident predictions towards the season. So it's coming, that's for sure, and it'll be very interesting the next few weeks, leading into May and June to see what happens. And that is for sure. Thanks for watching though. If you like what you saw today, please subscribe, comment, tell me what you thought. Share with family and friends as well. Help us build a community. And stay safe. A lot going on in the world right now. Very important to stay safe, to stay kind to others, and of course, peaceful as always. That's all we really need right now. Peace. And it's always good to spread peace, love, and kindness to everybody that you're around. Always make sure to do that, no matter what, even to your enemies too. Kill them with kindness, as they say, and I think that is definitely applicable right now. But anyways, thanks for watching. See you next week. We'll talk again soon.